Hello, hello, everybody. I'm Dr. R.J. Verwain, licensed clinical psychologist. For those of you who don't know me, I am an author, therapist. Of course, I do speaking and training for various companies, universities, all the things. But today, I'm coming to you to do a little bit of teaching. I had a little bit of teaching in my spirit. So that's what we'll be doing today. We're going to talk about a topic that's not talked about enough, especially for busy professionals and executives, and that is the topic of rest. If you followed me on Instagram at Ask Dr. RJ, or if you're in my private Facebook group for busy burned out professionals, then you know this is a topic that I speak about frequently. However, if you're new here, settle on in because we are going to talk about strategies, tips, and the importance of rest. You'll see me looking around at my notes again. This is a little bit of teaching today, maybe different from my normal conversation or different from just jumping on live, but I do want to make sure that you leave with some strategies. So if you are a note taker, take out your notes, take out your phone, and even if you have questions, feel free to DM me on Instagram at Ask Dr. RJ, and I will answer your questions. And also stay tuned because I feel like I have some giveaways that I'll give after this particular free mini course today. We'll be together for about 20 minutes or less. It depends on how much I ramble and how many stories I tell, but that's about the amount of time that we'll spend together today. So let's jump right back on in. So, as I'm referring to the 7 types of rest for the exhausted, I want to make sure that I give credit to the originator of these 7 types of rest. The OG, Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith, she is the creator of these 7 types of rest. So, anytime you hear someone referring to the 7 types of rest, that is her original work, Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith. And so I just wanted to make that clear. If you see it or hear it anywhere, make sure you give her her flowers, shout her out, because this is a super important topic that has helped me immensely. So by the time we finish today, you'll understand why rest is not just a luxury. It's leadership, it's survival, it's a necessity, and it's freeing, it's liberation. And so we're going to go over that today. Before we get going, I'd like you to take a moment to start by thinking about how you're feeling right in this moment. How are you feeling? When I'm working with my clients, I usually start the session with either wins or a feeling word. Now, y'all, I have some of the most amazing clients, the smartest people you'll ever know. And whenever I ask for a feeling word, everyone freezes like, feeling word, like what are you saying? What language is this that you're speaking about a feeling word? It's so important for us to be aware of our feelings. Are we hungry, lonely, tired, anxious, afraid, exhausted, confused, happy, elated, joyful, grateful? Like think about all the feeling words that are out there and think about how you're feeling right now in this moment. Check in with yourself. So take a moment to check in with yourself because based upon how you're feeling and in this moment when you're receiving this information, it will determine how you view it and how you take it in, and it will determine the next steps. So, although this presentation, obviously, this mini course is for everyone, I want to make sure that we're talking about the hidden burden of excellence for Black American professionals, executives. The reason that this is important for everyone to pay attention to is that there are unique burdens that drain our energy reserves. And so, often that weight is invisible even to ourselves. So you'll wake up, you'll start your day, and you're exhausted by 1 p.m. Well, often it's because either you didn't sleep well, or you're dehydrated, or there are some invisible weights and barriers and microaggressions that you've been battling even without realizing it. One of the unique burdens that we carry is code switching. So, adjusting how we speak, act, or look to just fit in. Now, I will say this current generation, Generation Z, um, I feel like they have done a much better job of not code switching. My daughter went to a physician's conference. She's a high schooler at the time of this recording. Um, she went to this future doctors conference, and she had her hair braided. There was an orange braid, there was a pink braid, there was all the things, and it didn't matter. Of course, I'm Generation X. When I was growing up, you didn't do that. Right. There was this whole, you have to look a certain way to fit in. Now, there are pros and cons. I don't want to go too far into that because then I'll be way beyond my time. Of course, I think it is important to understand the work culture, the culture of your organization, and to fit in based upon your culture. So, the culture of your organization, the culture of your company, the culture of your office, the culture of your church, the culture of your sorority or fraternity or civic organization. That's very different from completely changing yourself to fit in. The next is the pressure of being the first or the only. That's still happening, y'all. Like, even today, there's still pressure of being the first or the only in your family. And so, if you're first generation, anything, there is a representation responsibility. It's like you always have to be on your best behavior because you're thinking about how your behaviors will impact opportunities for those who follow you. And it's a real thing. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, but it can be exhausting. So we want to pay attention to the impact of that. And finally, unique burdens that Black professionals, Black American professionals carry are microaggressions. So it's like the little itty bitty things that add up all day long. It can definitely be exhausting. This racial battle fatigue, especially in the United States, that may not be in other places, is exhausting. I know for me, when my family and I travel to predominantly Black and Brown countries, there is a different weight. It doesn't feel as heavy. It doesn't feel as exhausting. And I can't necessarily explain it, but I'm sure a lot of you can relate. Being here is it comes with a different set of rules. It comes with underlying microaggressions, underlying issues that you may not have the specific type in other places. I'm saying all that to say, keep these in mind when you're thinking about why you're exhausted, why you feel like you're not rested. Is it code switching fatigue? Is it representation responsibility? Is it racial battle fatigue or microaggressions? Rest is revolutionary. It's not laziness. Often we are programmed to think, especially for men, I'll say this for sure. We're programmed to think that if we're resting, then it's lazy. However, rest is required. Rest is what recharges us so that we can then do the important work that we're called to do. Brianna Weist said, "You don't have to carry the weight of everything that came before you. You have permission to put it down." Right? So rest isn't just self-care, it's self-preservation. It allows us to have longevity. And so if we're running, 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 we're going to burn out quickly, quicker than we should, and we'll shorten our time, shorten our influence, and really inevitably shorten our purpose. So rest is a requirement, it's revolutionary. It is something that is also a responsibility. it doesn't help anyone if you're too exhausted to do what you were called to do. So take a deep breath with me right now. I want you to inhale for four, four, three, two, one. Hold it and exhale for three, three, two, one. Okay, one more time. So we're going to do four, inhale, three, exhale. You ready? Inhale with me, four, hold it, exhale with me, three. I want you to think about in those short seconds, it hasn't even been 20 seconds, how your posture may have changed, how your heart rate may have reduced, how you notice tension in your bodies or in your body or in your face or your shoulders or legs anywhere, just in that amount of time. Think about how often during the day that you're holding your breath. You're tense, you're working, you're strategizing, you're on five screens, and you're in the Microsoft Teams and solving this, solving that, answering questions for your family, doing all the things. Your body is going to tense up and be exhausted. However, one way to combat that, because you can't always make these stressors go away, one way to combat that is to just take a few minutes to breathe. And I don't mean a few minutes all at once. You can take one breathing break here for a minute, another breathing break for 3 minutes, but be intentional about resetting your nervous system, resetting your body several times throughout the day. And that will eventually help with rest that's required later on. Mental load. This is a big one. You've probably seen on social media lately the invisible mental load for parents, for mothers, for caregivers. So on top of our jobs, we're caregivers, advocates, community leaders, and we carry the emotional labor of explaining everything. Right. We're hyper aware about how we're perceived, and we try to be twice as good no matter what we tell ourselves. It's still this underlying being twice as good, being better for the next generation. And again, these aren't bad things. It's just be aware of them. Be aware of what's happening under the surface or behind the scenes so that you'll understand why you're exhausted, and then what we can do about it. This invisible mental load is heavy. It can be heavy unless you are intentional about delegating, right? Unless you're intentional about organizing, saying no, setting boundaries. But the first step is to be aware of the mental load. So think for a moment. What is one invisible responsibility that you carry daily that most people never see? And it may be more than one, but just think about that. What's one invisible responsibility you carry daily that most people never see? Especially if you're a caregiver or if you're in the sandwich generation of caring for your parents and also caring for your children, there are probably a ton of mental load responsibilities or invisible responsibilities that you don't even think about. I'll say I'll speak for both sides. For men, what I hear a lot that the invisible mental load is providing financially and protection. Like that is hanging there. It's there no matter what. For women, from what I hear from my clients, the mental load is organizing all the things, like thinking for everyone in the family. Those things just show up, but it can be exhausting. So I'll give you a couple of strategies. If the mental load includes thinking for everybody, rely on your calendar. You've probably heard me say that before. Rely on your calendar. My family has a family calendar. Everybody uses a color code. It all comes to my master calendar so that even if it doesn't belong to me, I know what's going on, but everyone handles their own thing. I like to know what's going on. And so it's important for me to see what my son has, what my daughter has, when the appointments are. Um, However, having it all in one place may feel overwhelming at first, But once you get used to it, it will reduce some of the clutter that your brain has to sort through. So, one strategy in reducing the mental load is to rely on your calendar, and to use a family calendar if you're caring for more than one person. Rely on your calendar, look at it often. I look at my calendar several times a day. I have a screen right here that has my schedule daily and then weekly so that I don't have to hold that in my head. Rely on your calendar and only commit or say yes once you've consulted with your calendar. That will definitely help decrease the mental load. A lot of times I'm talking with my clients and I'll say, "Well, how are you keeping up with all this information?" And guess what they say, y'all? "It's in my head." And I'm like, "Oh, I mean, I get it. Yes, you're smart, you're brilliant, but those things are taking up a lot of good real estate in your head. You need your brain to operate in your zone of genius, not to keep up with mundane tasks of daily activities. That's why it feels exhausting. So, again, if we're thinking about the invisible mental load, think about one invisible responsibility you carry for yourself and that no people that you carry for yourself and people may not even know, because part of this is self-awareness, right? Once you're self-aware, then you can decide to make change and focus on what you can control. You can't necessarily control other people, but you can control how you organize yourself and move forward with your mental load. Again, it doesn't mean that the mental load is going to go away. It means that there are ways to strategize, there are ways to prevent it from making you completely exhausted. All right, let's move on. So, the 7 types of rest that you need. Again, this is Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith's original work. The Sacred Rest is the name of her book. The name of her work is years and years and years of research. So, whenever you see 7 types of rest, it is originated by Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith. So, the 7 types of rest that you need. Often, when I ask my clients how they feel, and they say tired, I say, "What kind of tired?" Right? And then we pause because depending on the type of tired, that will then depend on what strategy or solution we come up with. Sometimes you just need a nap, but sometimes you've napped too much to avoid certain things. So maybe you need exercise. Maybe you need time to yourself. Maybe you need time with other people. Maybe you need to be more creative. I know for me, I didn't even realize I was a creative until someone very special to me was like, "You're really, really creative," and I'm like, "Oh, I am. I'm a creative." And I noticed that if I don't have time to invent or create, then I do feel more exhausted than normal. So let's talk about these 7 types of rest. First is physical rest. That's generally what we think about when we think of rest. So there's your sleeping, your napping. There, you can get a massage to help your need for physical rest, stretching and breathing exercises. All of those will help with physical rest. Sleeping is so important. My Aura Ring, I've been using it for about 2.5 years, and it really keeps me on track with the types of rest that I need. So, physical rest. Sleep, of course, is a great way to get physical rest. Also, check your sleeping environment. One of my clients and I were talking about her sleep, and we came up with like, it's just too hot in your room and you need a new mattress, like something as simple as that. So, think about your sleeping environment. That seems like a little thing, but it really is a big thing when we're thinking about quality of rest. The next type of rest is mental rest. Are you just exhausted from carrying all these to do lists in your head, from keeping up with everybody's things, from being the organizer in your family, all the things? One way or a few ways that you can achieve mental rest are through brain breaks. What do I mean by brain breaks? You can just relax, do some deep breathing, and allow your brain to just slow down and not focus on anything for a few minutes. Of course, meditation is a form of charging back up when there are issues with mental rest. Journaling, my favorite. Mindfulness, my other favorite. Um, all of these things you can practice, they will quiet your racing thoughts. Now, be patient with yourself. It takes a while. If you've been like me, kind of high anxiety, high charge ever since you were a child, you're the go-to person, all the things. It's not going to happen overnight where your brain decides to naturally take a rest. You have to be patient and train your brain through tasks like meditation, journaling, mindfulness, and brain breaks. Another type of rest is sensory rest. We're often exhausted from being on screens all the time. I love screens, and so I'm not anti screen. And it's important to have time away from screens, right? It's important to be out in nature, get some vitamin D, some sunshine. If you're fortunate enough to be near a body of water, do that. And so sensory rest is super important because often our brains are overloaded because of noise and constant stimulation. I think if we were to call something an epidemic, that would be it right now. There's an epidemic of a lack of sensory rest. We're always going, 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 listening, doing all the things. Something that I love to do is to just be quiet in my car when I'm driving. Uh, there is a period of time where I will listen to an audiobook if I'm trying to get something done, but I also value just being quiet, just having silent time. Now, it's not lost on me that being quiet can be anxiety provoking if you're like, as soon as I'm quiet, all these other thoughts will start creeping in. That's an indication that you should be speaking with a therapist for sure if you are avoiding sitting still or being quiet because you don't know what's going to happen once you're quiet with yourself. And that's more common than not. Creative rest, reconnecting with art, music, nature, all of those things will help you rest creatively. So exposure to beauty, art, nature, inspiring environments, help you feel better. Um, I am the type of person who needs to be outside. I need to put my feet in the soil. I need to ground. I need to connect with nature in order to recharge. Like it literally feels like a recharge. And if that's you, make sure that you are creating opportunities for rest. So we're going to do the next three. Out of these four, though, which type do you feel the most deprived of right now? Okay. Physical rest, mental rest, sensory rest, or creative rest? All right. More types of rest to explore. Again, this is Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith's 7 types of rest that we're talking about right now. So there's emotional rest. Um, when there's a tired, it can almost feel like a sadness, like, oh, I'm just exhausted. I'm not sleepy, right? My body's not tired, but my soul is tired. Like I'm just exhausted. A way that you can refill by using emotional rest is to be in safe spaces or create safe spaces. Here it says without code switching because, of course, this is for executives and busy professionals. However, for me, what that means is my group chat. I get a lot of emotional rest by being in my group chat. I can just be me, be who I am, just be. Like, I don't have to be in a great mood. I don't have to perform, just show up. And so think about um, where you can find emotional rest. It can be with another person, it can be through reading, it could be obviously through therapy, which I recommend for emotional rest. It could be with a small group if you have small groups at your church or in your community. Those are all ways that all different ways you can achieve emotional rest. Social rest. Where are my introverts at? So, this is the thing about introverts. I know People are probably sick of hearing about introverts. It became a big thing when we were sheltered in place. And all of the introverts are like, "Ooh, this feels good." And so then we started acknowledging, like, yes, it does feel good to be alone sometimes. So, social rest. The thing about introverts is not that introverts don't like to be out. It doesn't mean that they don't like people. It's just that introverts get their energy from in being inward. They get their energy from rest. Extroverts get their energy from being around other people and through maybe noises, sounds, invigorating environments. It's not about whether or not you like people or whether or not you want to be social. It's where do you get your energy? Where do you feel the most filled up? So, even for extroverts, though, it's super important to have a rest from demanding environments where there's performance required or explanation or education. And what do I mean by that? I don't always want to be Dr. RJ. Like sometimes I just uh, like to be Rashana. And it's so important for me to be able to unplug and explore all of the different types of my true authentic self. They're all true, they're all authentic, but I don't want to spend too much time in one or the other. So social rest can be spending time alone. I'm not saying isolation because that's very different, but spending intentional time alone or time with affirming people. Next, there is spiritual rest. So, reconnecting with something bigger than yourself. Depending on your beliefs, your reconnection will be different from others. But it is super, super, super important, no matter what your beliefs are, to connect to something larger than yourself, whether it's through prayer, meditation, community, nature, whatever it is that you are intentional about practicing. Do that because spiritual rest is definitely necessary. If you could add one of these into your week, emotional rest, social rest, or spiritual rest, which one would make the difference right now? Think about that. If you could add one of these into your week, emotional rest, social rest, or spiritual rest, which one would make the difference right now? Okay. Okay. I'm getting some message that my there's an issue with my connection on one. So give me a second to see if I can resolve that. Okay, I'm just gonna have to repost over here at these other people because there is an issue and I don't want to interrupt it for everyone else. Okay, moving right along. We'll be done very soon. I know I'm over the time I said I would be. I told y'all I start telling stories and then my 20 minutes turns into 30 minutes or 35 minutes, but here we are. Signs of rest deficit. So, how do you know if you're running on empty? So if there are issues with physical rest, you're going to be have persistent fatigue, frequent illness, always a cold or a cough, or always something going on physically. You're going to have tension headaches, maybe muscle aches. So signs that you're running on empty, your body will tell you, and your body will make you rest and or slow down. Emotional signs, irritability, everything gets on your nerves, everybody gets on your nerves, and you may be snappy. There may be emotional numbness. Often we think on the other side as like we're acting out, but it might just be an emotional numbness. Nothing really matters. It's like I just can't take another thing, so I'm going to shut down. There also may be heightened sensitivity. This is how you know if you are in a rest deficit and running on empty. There are mental signs. Brain fog is a huge mental sign. I always tell the story about there was a time I was looking for my glasses and they were sitting right on top of my head, like they're literally looking for them. That's happened with me with my phone. I'm looking for my phone and it's in my hand, right? It's just ridiculous. That brain fog is a sign that you're running on empty. Difficulty concentrating and also decreased creativity. If you get stuck and you're usually able to um, get things going, then you'll see that you're in a rest deficit and there are mental signs that you're running on empty. Behavioral signs: withdrawal, declining invitations, and procrastination. Now, y'all know I'm the queen of saying no. However, I'm not going to decline an invitation that I've already said yes to. That's a behavioral sign that I'm too exhausted, and it's also just not right. Like if you say you're going to do something, do it. You want to correct on the front end by not overcommitting. But once you commit to something, that's it. You got to push through. And so, a behavioral sign that you're running on empty, if you're interrupting commitments, prior commitments, if you're withdrawing from things that generally fill you up or that bring you joy, and if you are procrastinating, often we procrastinate because the task feels so big, so insurmountable, and it probably only takes 15 minutes, but it feels so big because it's on top of everything else. Who has felt at least one of these in the past 2 weeks, right? If this sounds like you, then your body is ringing the alarm. So let's be clear, therapy is also rest. It's not a luxury. Therapy is a sacred space for unburdening without judgment. One of my favorite things about being a therapist is that my clients have a place to just be. There is no judgment, there's no questioning, they can just be. And I feel rewarded by um, being able to provide a space like that because there are not many spaces out there like that. Therapy provides professional, highly skilled support for navigating workplace issues like racism, microaggressions, all the things that come up. It gives you permission to prioritize your well-being, and it breaks generational patterns around mental health. So, therapy is not a weakness, it really is maintenance for a high functioning mind. Let me repeat that again. Therapy, getting therapy, isn't about a weakness. It's not a weakness, it's maintenance for a high functioning mind. So take about 10 seconds. Think about where you are, one area of your life where you feel lighter if you just had space to unload. And imagine what therapy could shift in that area. So, creating your rest revolution plan, we're almost there. Here's how to start. You want to first identify your rest deficit. So, we've talked about this. What types of rest do you need right now? And track your energy for a week. So, as you're journaling, because we've talked about journaling, track down what type of rest or where you have a deficit this week. Um, Schedule rest like you would schedule your meetings. Okay. I often tell people to gray out an area, have it a do nothing time, but it can also be a scheduled rest time. Build your support system and practice setting boundaries. So grab your pen and write down one commitment, or grab your pen or your phone. I'm old school, so I always say your pen. Grab your pen or your phone and write down one commitment you'll make this week to add rest into your life. Just one. Okay. One commitment you'll make this week to add rest into your life. Finally, rest is revolutionary, right? We know that Audre Lorde created, coined, curated the term self-care. We know self-care is not about bubble baths and get your nails done and all of those things. It really is much deeper than that. It's a physical, mental, emotional, spiritual process that allows you to show up as you're meant to be. Okay, so that's the true meaning of self-care. And so when you think about self care, when you think about your revolutionary plan, um, remember that when you're resting, it's not a luxury, it's a requirement, just like drinking water and getting sunshine. Rest is a requirement. And if you don't rest, your body will warn you, your body will push back. Um, and then that causes a forced rest that you have not planned for. So I'll leave you with this. Think about what type of rest you need to reclaim first. What type of rest do you need to reclaim first? You're not lazy, you're just overdue for true rest, true consistent rest. The rest will then catapult you and allow you to show up as the best version of yourself in any environment. So it's not like, oh, you rest and then you've missed out on something. It's you've rested and then it catapults you to the next level. It's like a super vitamin kind of thing when you're resting consistently in all 7 areas. So, what type of rest are you committing to reclaim first? Is it physical? Is it mental, sensory, creative, emotional, social, spiritual? Commit to one type of rest this week that you haven't done before. And then each week, add on to that. It's a process. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Don't try to do all 7 at once. I guarantee you, if you're intentional about adding one type of rest per week to your routine until you can get them all in a nice flow, you will show up sharper, you'll show up faster, stronger, you'll show up more satisfied as the version of yourself that you really want to be. You'll show up as I was going to say kind. It doesn't mean that you're not kind, but you'll show up, and I'm speaking from experience. You'll be able to tackle situations in ways with grace, with ease, with a sharpness that is often desirable by overachievers. We like to be sharp, we like to be quick. If we're exhausted, then we're not. And then that causes all other things. So again, I'm rambling because this is one of my favorite topics, but I'm going to love you and leave you. Obviously, if you are at the point where you have a need for rest, you don't know where to start, let's just have a quick conversation. Just go to askdrrj.com and we'll have a quick call and to see if I can help or if I can point you in a direction where I can help. If you are an agency or a company where you feel like your team members are exhausted or they're dragging or they're procrastinating or making mistakes they had not made. Maybe a quick consultation is needed. Maybe a workshop, a conference, all the things. Maybe something is needed. Same thing. Just contact me at askdrrj.com. All right, everybody. Thank you.
RJ, you say there is an art to balancing burnout.
Absolutely. So burnout is when we're constantly going, but we're getting nowhere, right? Constantly
That
running
hamster
and
wheel
running.
effect.
That
Yeah.
hamster wheel. And I see so many women stuck there. They're overworking and not getting any rest. And so I came up with a framework called the Art of Balance. The
Okay.
A is for authenticity,
Okay.
R for relentless rest, and T is for time consciousness.
Gotcha. Let's talk just briefly about authenticity.